The race to lead the Democratic National Committee is beginning to take shape. 4 candidates have officially thrown their hats in the ring. The chair of the Minnesota Democratic Farmer Labor Party, Ken Martin, former Maryland Governor Martin O'Malley, and New York State Senator James Skoufis. Good to have all of these now putting their hats in the ring. But here now with us is Wisconsin Democratic Party Chairman Ben Wickler, who joins us now. And Ben, your hat's in the ring, too. I want to know, it came from a state that Kamala Harris lost. So what makes you the logical next step to lead the party? And what do you think the biggest challenge is for the party moving forward?
Good morning, Mika. Thanks for having me on today. We need a fighter who can unite the party, fight in every state, and win even in tough conditions. And Wisconsin did go for Trump by the smallest margin of any state that Trump won. We had the smallest swing towards Trump of any battleground state. We won our U.S. Senate race. We won 14 state legislative seats that we flipped from red to blue. And the reason we could do all that is because we've built a permanent campaign here that organizes and communicates in red, purple, and blue areas nonstop. Trump and the MAGA Republicans have now taken over full control of the federal government. We know they're going to try to abuse their power and shred the federal budget to give trillions of dollars to billionaires at the expense of working people. And we've seen this movie before in Wisconsin. Republicans took total control here, and in a frenzy of handouts and right-wing attacks, attacked unions, defunded public schools, gerrymandered maps, suppressed the vote. But we've figured out how to fight back against them in Wisconsin by organizing in rural and suburban areas and cities alike. And we need to do the same thing nationwide to defeat the threat of the MAGA extremists and the plutocracy that Trump wants to create, and be able to win up and down the ballot for these next 4 years.
So you're saying what happened in Wisconsin just needs to be done more? Are you saying that there are no ways the Democratic Party may need to change strategy in order to start winning again?
We absolutely need to adapt and change. And to your question, what is the biggest challenge we have? We can see in all the data that came out of this last election that there are working people across the country, across race and ethnicity, across gender, generation, ideology, in every part of the United States, people who had taken it on the chin with inflation, who'd felt the pandemic era supports go away, and then had trouble being able to fill prescriptions and buy groceries at the same time. And the people who were paying the least attention to politics, often because they were struggling with so much in their own lives, they're the folks that we lost. And what we can tell is that they were not hearing our message at the volume and with the clarity that we needed. If voters only hear about Democrats from Republicans, then we're going to lose. So we have to adapt how and where we communicate so that we're reaching the people who are not thinking about politics every day, who are trying to make it through their own lives, and make clear to them through our words and our actions that we are fighting for them against a group of people who are trying to divide America in order to enrich themselves. And that's what you see around Trump and in Donald Trump in the Trump administration.
So, Ben, another group that Democrats lost this time around per polling, Latinos. Certainly there's an erosion of support there. You know, they're certainly not a monolithic group. Let's make that clear. But what would be some of the messages to try to win back a bloc that had been pretty reliably Democratic for a while, but broke in surprising way for Trump this time around?
Most Latinos and most Americans across ethnicity and race are working class folks who are not making hundreds of thousands or millions or billions of dollars a year. They're folks who are trying to make sure that they can take care of their families and build the kind of lives that they need. And Latinos and other Americans are struggling with the price of housing. They're frustrated about the price of groceries. And their question, the question that all voters have is, who's on my side? Who's fighting for me? I think for Democrats, the central appeal is actually in making the case that we're fighting for people to have a better life. Now that starts and centers on the economy. It also means freedom and dignity and respect that should be the birthright of every American. It should be a core part of how we interact with each other in this country. There's a lot to do on all these fronts. But if people don't think you're for them, they're not interested in your position on any other issue. And I think we're about to see, we know Trump is going to try to give multi-trillion-dollar tax handouts to billionaires. And a Democratic Party that fights against that spotlights Republicans talked a good game about all kinds of other stuff, but their real agenda here is to sell off this country to the highest bidder, and the highest bidders are the people who funded Donald Trump's campaign and are now about to reap the rewards. We need to fight back against that, and that's how we win people to our side, by fighting, and that's how we unite the party.
Chair of the Democratic Party of Wisconsin, Ben Wickler, thank you very much for coming on the show this morning.